What we were just doing is we were using the process of factoring to solve quadratics, and what we're going to do today is we're going to use the quadratic formula to solve quadratics. So a quadratic is something that's written as ax squared plus bx plus c. When it's written like this, and it doesn't have an equal sign, that's when we were factoring them, just factoring them. That's what the quiz was on yesterday. When you put an equal sign in the problem, you have it like equal 0, that's when you're allowed to solve it. If it's an equation, if it has an equal sign, you can solve it. So when you use the quadratic formula to solve, it has to equal 0. And then the quadratic formula is that the x value is solved when you have negative b, this is your b value, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, so these are your a and your c values, all divided by 2a. Okay. So this part for the discriminant we're going to come back to because I think that in the examples, I think I have one of each. I'm not positive. But this part right here, this is the discriminant. And the discriminant is just the part that's underneath the square root. Discriminant. And when we are going through and plugging the quadratic formula into our calculator, we always plug in the discriminant first, just because you can see that's the most complicated part of the formula. So we want to figure out what that is first. Okay, so let's go through and do the first example. So if you look at number 1, we can see that our a value is 10. The b value is negative 11, and the c value is negative 8. And the reason I could see them just by looking at the equation is because the equation already equaled 0 when I just first got started. So I can already see what the a, the b, and the c are. So I'm just going to go ahead and start plugging my numbers in. The beginning of the equation says the negative version of b. So my b value is already negative, so I'm going to say the negative version of negative 11. And what happens with a negative negative? Makes it positive. So that's going to become positive, yeah. I'm going to leave it for now, but when I come back to it later, I'm going to make it positive. Okay? The next part of the formula said b squared. So I have a negative 11 that I'm going to be squaring, so I'm going to put it in parentheses, negative 11 squared. And then the next part of the formula is that I'm going to minus 4, and I'm going to multiply it times a, and I'm going to multiply it times c. So I'm going to say times a times c. And I usually write my times with parentheses, but you can write it with a dot if you want. Either way is fine. And then all of this is being divided by 2 times a. So 2 times a. Okay, now the part that I'm going to plug into my calculator first, like I said, is the discriminant. So this part goes in my calculator first. And notice when I highlighted this, I highlighted the part underneath the square root. I did not highlight the square root. So we're not plugging the square root in our calculator. We're only plugging in the part underneath. So I'm going to type negative 11 squared minus 4 times 10 times negative 8. And you can hit the times button or you can use parentheses. It doesn't matter. You should get the same answer. Okay? So let's go ahead and type this in and see what we get for the discriminant. Anybody else get it? Can we confirm? We all get the same thing? 441? Everybody get 441? Okay. 441. All right, so what we have now, we had minus minus, that makes a plus. So now we're going to say we have a positive 11 plus or minus the square root of 441 divided by 2 times 10 is 20. Okay, so if the discriminant is like this, if it's a positive number, if it's greater than 0, if it's a positive number, we're going to get 2 answers. Because what's happening is we are square rooting 441, and the formula is asking us to do the positive version of the square root, and the formula is asking us to do the negative version of the square root. So that's 2 answers. Okay? So we're going to say we're going to get 2 real answers. Okay? 2 real answers. All right, so we're going to type this in on our calculators. This is a fraction. How do I get a fraction on my calculator? Okay, I do green button for alpha, alpha y equals. I press enter. Okay, so here you have to choose which one you're going to do first. I always do the plus first. So I'm going to type 11 plus. How do I get a square root on my calculator? Second, and then I hit the x squared button. Second, and then I hit the x squared button, which is right down here. It's next to the comma. Second x squared. Okay, I'm going to put the 441 in, and then I'm going to jump down to the bottom and put the 20 in. Okay, and we're going to get a decimal. Can somebody tell me what decimal they got? Oh, it was a fraction? Ooh, so that means that 441 is a perfect square. That's kind of cool. Okay, so our answer, x equals 8/5. That's neat. Okay, x equals 8/5. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop back up here with my cursor. So I'm going to hit the up arrow, up arrow, up arrow, and I'm going to press enter. So what I'm doing is I'm copying and pasting. And then I'm going to go back. The notes are already back on the table if you want to grab them. I'm going to go back, and I'm going to change the plus to a minus. So I have the plus version, and then I have the minus version. What do we get? -1/2. All right, there we go. 2 answers. 8/5, -1/2. Okay, everybody good? Okay. Let's try the next one. So the next one is not ready to go because it equals 4m. It's not supposed to equal 4m. What is it supposed to equal? 0. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and minus 4m over to the other side to make it equal 0. And what order should I write these down in? Minus 4m, okay, plus 5. Okay? So my a value is 4. My b value is -4. My c value is 5. Okay, so x equals, okay, my x equals -b. B is already 4, or is already -4. So I'm going to say the negative version of -4 plus or minus the square root of -4 squared minus 4 times a times c. So what 2 numbers should I put here? Times 4 times 5. Perfect. Okay. all divided by 2 times a. 2 times 4. Perfect. Okay, so next we're going to take this, and the only part we're going to plug in the calculator is the discriminant, nothing else. So I'm going to grab my calculator. Negative 4 squared minus 4 times a times c. Negative 64? Anybody else get negative 64? Negative 64? Okay. So let's go ahead and write down that's what we have. So we have minus minus, which makes positive. Okay. So we have positive 4 plus or minus the square root of negative 64 all divided by 8. Okay. And now we have to take a break and kind of remember what we learned in Math 2, because you learned about this in Math 2 and we haven't talked about it in Math 3. We have a negative underneath a square root. Anyone remember from Math 2 what that does? Are you supposed to have a negative under a square root? Yeah. So if I was to do square root of negative 64, my calculator says, nope, can't do it. But in Math 2, you learned something that you could do to make it so you could keep doing the problem. Anyone remember? It's a specific letter. You take this and you make this positive. It is I. So you take this and you say, okay, this is a negative, but I'm going to make it positive. And then I'm going to stick an I in the front. And that tells the person looking at my paper, hey, this answer is about to be fake. I'm going to keep working with it, but I just want you to know this is a fake answer. So we take the negative out from underneath the square root. We stick an I in the front so whoever looks at our paper knows we're about to do something imaginary. Does anyone know what the square root of 64 is? 8. The square root of 64 is 8. Okay, so what we have is we have 4 plus or minus, square root of 64 is 8, so 4 plus or minus 8i, all divided by 8. As soon as you see that square root of negative 64, as soon as you see that, this means no calculator. So we're going to say I means no calculator. As soon as you see an I, you stop using a calculator for the problem. Okay? Now, if you look at all these numbers, what do you notice about them? They're all even. What else do you notice about them? 4, 8, and 8. They're all divisible by 4. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide them by 4 so that we can reduce this problem. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2. And the other 8 divided by 4 is also 2. So our final answer for this one is 1 plus or minus 2i divided by 2. Now this means we got 2 answers because the plus is one answer, the minus is another answer. So one of the answers was 1 plus 2i divided by 2. The other answer was 1 minus 2i divided by 2. There's 2 answers there. So we're going to go back up to this part of our notes. We're going to say if the discriminant is less than 0, that means it's negative. If the discriminant is negative, we get 2 answers, but they're imaginary. 2 imaginary, which means they're complex. 2 imaginary complex answers. Okay, let's do the last one. 3m squared plus 4 equals negative 10. Is this one ready to go? You got to add the 10. Okay, so we're going to do plus 10m, make it equal 0. And then how should I write these out? Okay, so my A value is 3. My B value is 10. My C value is 4. Perfect. Okay, so we have x equals, what does the formula say? Close, but not quite. Not the negative version, so it'd be negative 10. Good. So the negative version of B, which is negative 10, plus or minus, and then Alyssa, what comes next? It's what you just said. 10 squared. Minus 4, and then what comes next? Times A, which is 3. Times C, which is 4. Okay. All of that divided by 2 times A, which is 3. Perfect. Okay. So we're going to take this. We are going to plug in just the discriminant. And what are you guys getting? 52. Okay, so we have negative 10 plus or minus square root of 52 over 6. Okay, so this one is ready to just be plugged into the calculator. So how do we plug in a fraction on the calculator? Alpha y equals, okay, I've got negative 10 plus, how do I get a square root on the calculator? Second x squared, okay, 52 over 6. What do I get? A decimal, okay, so I'm going to put 3 decimal places. So x, I'm going to put a squiggly equal. That tells the person looking at my paper that I rounded the decimal. You don't have to put a squiggly equal if you don't want to, but I usually put them in my answers. So negative 0.464, but this 4 has an 8 after it, which means I should round it. So 465. Perfect. I'm going to go back, copy paste this answer and put a negative there. Negative 2.86. The 8 is followed by a 5, so I have to round this to a 9. Okay, That's the answer. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and these will have two answers often. I'm going to tell you one last situation that will make you only have one answer, and we didn't have it in the example problems. So we're going to go back up here. So if your discriminant, so the highlighted part, if that is greater than 0, if it's positive, you get two answers. If it's negative, you get two answers. They just have the I in them. If the discriminant equals 0 exactly, I'm going to show you what happens. So if the discriminant equals 0 exactly, that means that what you would plug into the calculator would be the square root of 0, right? If your discriminant is 0, then you would have the square root of 0 in the problem. So if we did this problem with the square root of 0, we would have negative 10 plus square root 0 over 6, and we would get this answer. And then we would do the minus version, negative 10 minus square root 0 over 6, and we would get the same answer twice. Because what is the square root of 0? It's 0. It's nothing. So if your discriminant happens to be 0, it makes the square root part of the formula not matter, and then you end up with only one answer, because you don't have plus a number, minus a number. You just have the part in the front. So if your discriminant is 0, you're going to have one real answer. So Addison, what you noticed was these are going to have two answers often. The one situation that is going to be an exception to that rule is if you're finding the discriminant and you find that it's 0. Then you'll only have one answer, but typically two. Okay, so I'm going to hand out a worksheet for you guys to practice these on. This worksheet is one of those, have we done a color by number worksheet yet? Oh, okay. So I'm going to hand out the worksheet first, and then I'm going to get the coloring page portion of it ready. I cannot remember who I made for this color by number. I think it might be Snoop Dogg, but I need to actually get it printed. So I'm going to hand out the math portion of it first, and then once I get the other part ready, I will hand that out as well. Okay? So let me get this to you guys. Are there any problems on the page that we should start off by doing? The equations have a lot more stuff on each side than the example problems did, so maybe we should do a couple of these. Which one do you guys want to do?
Number 1.
Let's do number 1. Okay. So what should we do with number 1? Combine like terms. So okay. Okay. So we've got 2x squared plus 9x okay, and A is 2, B is, and C is, okay, perfect. Okay. Okay, so we're going to write x equals -9. And then what should we write? Nine squared minus 4 okay, times 2 times -18 all divided by 2 times 2. Okay. And then we're going to plug the discriminant in to see what the discriminant is. $225. So we have -9 plus or minus square root of 225 over 4. I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. So I'm going to do alpha y equals -9 plus root 225 over 4. Three over 2, okay. So x equals 3 over 2. And then I'll go back up and copy paste. Make that a minus. And what do you guys get? What'd you get? -6? Yep. Are there any on here that seem weird or anything? They all kind of look similar. Hi. Okay. Did you guys want to do another one? Or do you want to try on your own? Yeah, we can do number 6. Okay. Number 6 is a good one because it does do something weird. So how do we start on number 6? We combine like terms. Okay. So what do you want to do first? Minus the 10 over. Okay. So we have 3x squared plus 12. And what got weird about this one? Yeah, it took out one of the terms. Can you tell which term it took out? Took out the regular x. So what letter did we lose? It took out the b value. Okay, so if the b value is missing, can you tell what number we would use for b if it's just not there? Not 1. 1 would actually show up. We would put a 0. 0 is the number that wouldn't even show up. So if the b value, if we don't even have that x there, we could say 0x. 0x is what you could have written that doesn't even have to be showing up in the equation. Okay, so what's our a value? 3. What's our c value? 12. Okay, so what should we be writing? X equals 0. And you could put positive 0 or negative 0 because of the formula. It doesn't matter because they're the same. And then what should we write next? B squared. So 0 squared. Okay. Okay. So minus 4 times 3, there's your A value. 12 is your C value. And all of this is divided by what? 2 times 3. Okay. What do we plug into the calculator first? The discriminant. What'd you get? Okay. Everybody get it? Alpha, y equals. Upper left. Okay, everyone get negative 144? Yes? Okay. So if we got 0 plus minus square root negative 144, what do you do once you get that negative? You put an I. What do you do with the negative, though? Make it a positive. So I'm going to change this to a positive. Where does the I go? Goes right in front of the square root. Okay. Does anyone know what the square root of 144 is? 12. Okay. So at this point, the 0 doesn't really need to be there because it's just 0. So I'm going to say plus or minus 144. We've got 12i divided by 6. Can your 12 divide by 6? Yes. What is it? 2. So we're going to say plus or minus, and you can write 2 over 1, but anytime you have something over 1, that's just a whole number. So we can say plus or minus 2i. How many answers is that if I have it written like this? Is that one answer? 2 answers. What are the 2 answers? Positive 2i and negative 2i. So this is 2 answers, positive 2i and negative 2i. Okay. So this happens one more time on the worksheet where there's a b value that disappears. Where you have a b value of 0. It's just not even in the problem. Okay, so be on the lookout for that. Is there another problem you guys want to try before you get started? 2? 2 and 8? Okay. Okay. All right, so for number 2, what should we do? To do what? Wait for a minute, and then yes. Okay. So what should we move over?
11 and 6.
Okay, so minus 11x squared. How should we move the 6? Add.
The 6, add up.
Mm-hmm. All right, so what do we have?
11x squared plus 5x plus 11 equals 0.
All right, so I minus the 11, so she said we have 11x squared, and then Destiny, what else did you say?
Plus 5x plus 11.
Plus 5x minus 11, okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh. Never mind. That might be why I'm messing up.
All right, and then A, B, and C. Someone at Christian's table, can you guys help us figure out A, B, and C? You guys have any idea? So 11 is A. So here's our A value. You were looking in the right spot because you had the x squared term to start with, but this is where we are now. Can you tell what the B value is? 5. And what's the C value? So make sure we keep the sign with it. So negative 11. Okay. All right, and then let's write out what we have. So what should our formula be? Zion, what did you say to start with? 5 squared. Okay. All right, and what are we typing in first? The discriminant goes in first. Anybody else want to confirm that's what they got too? 509? You guys got that too? 509? Okay. All right, so 509 is our discriminant. So negative 5 plus or minus square root 509. And then what do we have on the bottom? Divided by 22. All right, somebody help me plug this in the calculator. How do we plug it in? So alpha y equals is how we're going to plug in the fraction. And then what do we press? Enter, okay. And now what should I be typing? Okay, so negative 5 plus, and then to get our square root, we're doing second x squared, 509 over 22. Okay. So to get the square root, is that what you're saying? To get the fraction? So to type the whole thing, I'm going to do the alpha y equals, that gets my fraction on the screen, this first option right up here. And then I'm typing negative 5, and make sure you're using the negative button, not the subtract button. So negative 5 plus, and to get our square root, we're doing second x squared. Were you able to type it? Yeah? Okay. 509 and then over 22. And I'm going to go back and put mine in as a minus. Okay, so our two answers, I've got 0.798. And I'm going to put a squiggly equal sign, so I'm saying approximately since I have decimals, so 0.798. And then negative 1.25, and I have to round this one. So this 2 right here is followed by a 7, and so I'm going to round it up. Round it up to a 3. Why didn't I have to round the 8 up? Because I had a 2. Okay, so I'm going to let you guys work on these other ones, and then I'm going to get the coloring part ready for you. for the color by number part, okay?